The wind howled like a wounded beast across the frozen plain. Snow drifted in thick, swirling waves, settling over the endless woods that covered the northern ridge of Varan 3, a distant moon once marked on human star maps as uninhabitable. Yet one man had proven that wrong. Ethan Cross drove his axe into another log. The sound cracked through the silence like thunder. Steam rose from his mouth, his breath white against the freezing air. Each strike was steady, almost mechanical. Chop, split, stack, repeat. He was building his home, log by log. Behind him stood the skeleton of a small cabin made from timber he had cut himself. The windows were sealed with clear polymer panels scavenged from his crashed ship. The roof still leaked. The stove only worked half the time. But it was his, and as the light began to fade, Ethan paused. Something about the silence bothered him. There was always silence here, but this time it felt different. Like someone was listening. The watcher in the woods beyond the clearing, hidden behind the thick silver trees, Lyria watched. Her tall form shimmered faintly in the snowlight, skin like polished glass, faintly blue, eyes glowing a soft white. She was not human. She had seen this man for many days now, cutting, building, talking to himself near the fire. Humans were strange to her, loud, restless, always fighting the world around them. Yet this one was quiet, patient. His hands moved with purpose. Lyria was a widow, one of the last survivors of the colony that once stood on this ridge. The war between her people and the humans had ended years ago, but peace had come too late for her. Her mate was gone. Her child was gone, and now only her memories kept her company. But then came this man, the first human she'd seen in years. Instead of bringing weapons, he brought wood and silence. She told herself she only watched to make sure he was no threat. But deep down she knew it was more. She watched because she missed someone. Ethan's solitude inside the cabin. Ethan rubbed his hands before the fire. The heat barely reached his fingers. His small radio crackled, useless as ever. No signal. He recorded a voice log anyway, a habit from his days as a supply pilot. Day 74, he said. Cabin's almost done. Food low, spirits low, but hey, I'm still breathing. He tried to laugh, but it came out dry. I think I'm being watched, he added quietly. Probably just the wind. Or maybe I'm talking too much to myself. Outside, through the cracked window, faint movement passed between the trees. The night, he collapsed. By the third month, winter struck harder. Temperatures dropped below survival levels. Ethan's supplies ran out faster than he expected. His hands were shaking, his lips blue. Fever crept through his body. That night he tried to chop one more log and stumbled. The axe fell from his grip, sinking into the snow. He crawled toward the door, gasping. His vision blurred. The last thing he saw was the flickering orange glow of his cabin fire, and a figure standing just outside. Lyria's choice. Lyria had been watching again. She saw him fall, heard the weak groan. Something inside her chest tightened. For a moment, fear stopped her. The memory of humans killing her people. But the way he fell, the helplessness in his breath. She stepped forward. Her long fingers brushed the cold wooden door. The moment she entered, heat hit her face. The smell of smoke, metal, and human sweat mixed in the air. Ethan lay on the floor, trembling, eyes half open. When he looked up, he saw only a blur, a tall shadow with eyes like stars. He whispered, "Am I dreaming?" Lyria knelt beside him, touching his forehead gently. His skin burned hot. "No dream," she said softly in her alien accent. "You will die if you stay like this." Her voice was strange, musical yet deep. Ethan tried to speak again, but the fever pulled him under. Lyria acted quickly. She took one of his thermal blankets and wrapped it around him. Then she placed her glowing hands over his chest. A soft hum filled the cabin, her people's healing technique, something humans never learned. The fever broke before dawn. A morning of confusion. When Ethan opened his eyes, sunlight poured through the window. His head pounded, but his body was warm. He sat up slowly and froze. On the table beside him were things he didn't recognize. Small crystalline fruits, each faintly glowing, and a bowl of warm liquid that smelled faintly like herbs. Then he noticed footprints near the door. Not human. 3 toes. Light. Precise. "Who?" he whispered, but no one answered. He stepped outside. The snow was untouched except for those same tracks leading back into the forest. The trail Ethan followed the trail a short distance. The forest was quiet, branches heavy with snow. His breath echoed in his ears. Then in the distance, movement, a flash of silver between trees. He froze. "Wait," he shouted. The figure turned. For a brief second he saw her clearly, tall, graceful, and otherworldly. The light caught her skin, turning it almost transparent like moonlight made flesh. Then she vanished into the mist. The second night, Ethan couldn't stop thinking about her. Was she real? A hallucination from fever? Or had one of the colony aliens survived out here? That night, as he sat by the fire, he found something new on his doorstep. More of those glowing fruits placed neatly beside his axe. He smiled faintly. Guess I'm not alone after all. Instead of eating them, he carved something small out of wood, a simple human gesture. It was the shape of her face as he remembered it, with kind eyes and a gentle curve of her mouth. He left it outside the door before sleeping. From the shadows, Lyria saw it. Her heart trembled. No one had made something for her in years. Memories in the cold Lyria returned to her cave that night holding the carving. The tiny figure felt warm in her hands. Memories flooded back, her mate teaching their child to carve small animals by the fire. Their laughter, their love, and then the explosions, the smoke, the end. Tears glimmered in her alien eyes. "Why him?" she whispered to the night. "Why must he remind me?" Yet she couldn't stay away. The blizzard days passed. Then came the storm, a white monster that swallowed the world. The wind screamed through the trees, tearing at the cabin walls. Ethan struggled to keep the fire alive, his hands numb. When the door burst open, snow blew in like a wave. And through it, a shadow entered. Lyria. Her cloak was frozen, her silver hair crusted with frost. She looked like a ghost. Ethan didn't move. For a moment, both just stared. "You came," he whispered. "You will die if the fire goes out," she said simply, her voice low but steady. He nodded. "Then help me keep it burning." And so for hours they worked side by side, feeding the fire, sealing the cracks, surviving the night. The first words, when the storm calmed, the world was quiet again. The firelight danced over the walls. Ethan sat across from her, studying her face. She looked almost human, but not quite, her skin faintly glowing, her eyes larger, her expression both fierce and gentle. "You saved me," he said. "I watched you," she replied. "You build alone, why?" Ethan smiled weakly. "Because it's all I can do. Lost my ship. Lost my crew. So I build." Lyria tilted her head. "Build what?" He looked around. "A place. Something that's mine. Something that lasts." She fell silent, thinking of her destroyed colony. "I understand," she said softly. For the first time she smiled. Faint, fragile, but real. A fragile peace. When morning came, the storm had passed. The world outside glittered in sunlight, snow stretching for miles. Lyria stood by the door. "I must go," she said. "If they find me with you, they will not forgive it." Ethan frowned. "Who?" "My people. They still fear yours." He hesitated, then said quietly, "Then let them fear me. But you don't have to." For a moment she didn't answer. Then she touched his shoulder gently. "You are not like the others. And you're not what I was told aliens are," he replied. They both smiled, faintly, two survivors standing on opposite sides of a war that ended long ago. Then she turned and disappeared into the forest, the echo of her presence that night. Ethan sat by the fire again. The cabin crackled, warm and alive, but he couldn't shake the image of her eyes. Sad, lonely, filled with something he couldn't name. He picked up another log, carving once more. This time he carved two figures standing beside each other beneath a tree. He placed it on the mantel and whispered, "You don't have to watch from the woods forever." Outside, far beyond the trees, Lyria paused in her walk. Though she couldn't hear his words, she felt them, like a soft warmth spreading through the cold. And for the first time in many years, she whispered back into the night, "I'm not alone anymore." Snow fell in soft waves outside the cabin. The world was quiet again, as if the storm had erased all sound. Ethan Cross stood by the window staring at the white forest. He had not seen the alien woman since that night. Days had passed. The trail she left was gone, buried beneath ice and silence. Still, he could feel her presence. Sometimes when he worked outside, he thought he saw a movement between the trees and a flicker of silver, a glimmer of eyes reflecting the firelight. He didn't call out anymore. He just kept building. The cabin grew larger, stronger, piece by piece. He built a second room, a small porch, and carved symbols into the doorway. One human, one alien. He didn't even know her language, but something told him it mattered. He was no longer building only for himself. The gift in the snow one morning, as the first light touched the frozen ground. Ethan opened the cabin door and froze. Something lay on the step, carefully arranged, half buried in snow. It was a piece of smooth black stone, polished and shaped like a teardrop. Beside it, a small cluster of glowing fruits, their light faint in the daylight. Ethan smiled faintly. "She's still out there," he whispered. He brought the fruits inside and set them on the table. For a moment he thought of eating one, but instead he placed them in a wooden bowl like an offering. Then he reached for his carving knife again. That night he made something new, a small carving of the cabin itself with two figures standing beside it. One human, one alien. When he finished, he placed it outside his door before sleeping. Lyraya's secret from the shadows. Lyraya watched. The human had left her another gift, this time a wooden piece of art, rough but full of meaning. His hands were clumsy compared to her people's artisans, yet his heart showed through every cut of the blade. She wanted to step forward, to thank him. But fear held her back. Her people, the Varens, had laws. No contact with humans. No forgiveness for those who helped the enemy. She had already been punished once for showing mercy during the war. If they found out she was visiting a human, she would be exiled forever. And yet each night she returned to watch him. She told herself she only wanted to make sure he survived the winter. But when she saw the soft light of his fire through the trees, when she heard his quiet humming, old earth songs full of sorrow, something inside her heart began to heal. The second meeting. 3 nights later, the storm returned. The wind howled again, shaking the cabin. Ethan worked fast, sealing the gaps, throwing more wood into the fire. He was used to it now. Then, a soft knock on the door. He froze. The knock came again, gentle, hesitant. Slowly, he opened the door. Snow blew in, cold and wild. There she stood, Lyraya. Her cloak was soaked, her hair covered in frost. Her glowing eyes were dim, almost dull. She looked exhausted, weak. Ethan didn't hesitate. "Get inside," he said. She stepped in slowly, like a shadow entering the light. Her body shivered, her hands trembling. Ethan quickly closed the door and pushed a blanket toward her. "Sit," he said. "You'll freeze." For a long time she said nothing. The firelight danced on her translucent skin. He could see faint lines beneath the surface like silver veins glowing faintly with life. Finally she whispered, "You should not help me." Ethan looked at her, confused. "Why not?" "My people will not forgive this," she said. "They will not forgive me?" He smiled faintly. "Then I guess we're both breaking rules." That made her look up. For the first time she saw the warmth in his eyes. Not fear, not disgust, just quiet understanding. Shared silence. Hours passed. They sat by the fire saying little. Ethan fixed the leaks in the roof while Lyraya warmed her hands near the flame. She watched him work, curious. Humans were supposed to be reckless, violent. But this one. He built things with care. He moved with patience. Every piece of wood he placed felt like an act of faith, as if he believed something good could still be made from ruins. After a while, she asked softly, "Why did you come here?" Ethan stopped working. "I didn't choose this. My ship crashed. Everyone else died. I just kept going." Lyraya lowered her gaze. "You lost them?" "Yeah," he said quietly. "You? My mate, my child. The war took everything." Silence hung heavy between them. The fire crackled. Outside the wind began to calm. Then Ethan said, "I'm sorry." Lyraya looked up. "Why are you sorry?" "You didn't kill them." "Doesn't matter," he replied. "Someone like me did. Someone human." She studied him for a long moment, then shook her head. "You carry too much guilt, Ethan Cross." He gave a tired smile. "You sound like my old captain." Lyraya's lips twitched in a faint smile, brief but real. The frozen lake. The next morning was clear. The storm had passed. Sunlight glinted off the snow. blindingly white. Ethan stepped outside, breathing in the cold air. Lyraya followed him, her long cloak dragging behind. He pointed toward the forest. There's a lake not far from here. Frozen solid. I get water from under the ice, she hesitated. You want me to come? He shrugged. Why not? You saved my life. Least I can do is show you the view. They walked together in silence. Snow crunched under their boots and clawed feet. When they reached the lake, the sunlight danced across its frozen surface like a mirror. Ethan knelt, chipping away the ice. Lyraya knelt beside him, her reflection shimmering beside his. For a moment she stared at it. Two figures, one human, one alien, side by side. Something inside her chest ached. Your world must be beautiful, she said. Sometimes, he replied, but it's loud. Too much noise. Here, it's quiet. Feels real, Lyraya smiled faintly. You sound like one of us. He grinned. Maybe I'm learning. The warning that night, when Lyraya returned to her hidden cave, a light was waiting. A scout drone hovered outside, its blue sensors scanning the snow. Her heart sank. The patrol had reached this area. That meant her people knew something, or suspected something. She disabled the drone quickly, covering her tracks. But she knew it wouldn't be long before they sent soldiers. She looked back toward the distant glow of Ethan's cabin. If they found him, they would kill him on sight. A decision in the firelight back at the cabin. Ethan cooked a small meal, his last ration mixed with wild roots. He set out 2 bowls without thinking. He caught himself smiling. Guess I'm used to having company now. A soft voice behind him said, Then I will stay for tonight. He turned. She stood at the door again, silent as a shadow. He nodded toward the seat by the fire. Welcome back. They ate in silence. Lyraya studied him, the way he handled the small wooden bowl, the way he smiled even though his food tasted like ash. Humans, she thought, had a strange power. They suffered, and yet they kept building. They lost everything, and yet they kept giving. When the meal was done, Ethan leaned back. You don't talk much, he said. Words are heavy, she replied softly. Sometimes silence is better, he nodded. Then let's share the silence. And they did. Sitting there, watching the flames until the stars began to shine through the window. The confession before dawn. Lyraya stood near the door, ready to leave. Ethan was half asleep, but he opened his eyes when he heard her move. Going already? They will find you soon, she said quietly. You must hide, he sat up. What are you talking about? My people sent drones. They are looking for me, for you. They think humans bring war wherever they go. Ethan frowned. Then stay here. We'll figure something out. Lyraya shook her head. If they see me with you, they will kill us both. He stood, stepping closer. You don't have to go back to them. Her eyes glowed softly, sadness inside their light. You don't understand. I already left them once, and they never forgave me. He reached out, hesitating, then placed his hand gently on her arm. Her skin was cool, almost like marble beneath his fingers. I understand more than you think, he said. I lost my people too. For a long moment, neither spoke. Only the fire crackled. Then Lyraya whispered, You build homes, but I destroy them. I don't deserve this peace, he shook his head. You kept me alive. You gave me food. You deserve more peace than anyone I've met. Her eyes softened, shimmering with unspoken emotion. You make me forget the war, she said. He smiled faintly. Then keep forgetting. The moment before dawn, when morning came, the forest was calm again. Light painted the sky gold. Lyraya stood on the porch, staring at the horizon. Ethan joined her, holding 2 cups of warm tea. He handed her one. She looked down at it curiously. Steam rising, scent of herbs. What is this? Something humans drink when they want to feel alive, and he said with a grin. She took a sip, and warmth spread through her cold body. For the first time she laughed, soft, musical, and strange to her own ears. Ethan looked at her, amazed. That's a good sound. She smiled shyly. It feels strange to laugh again. They stood together in silence, watching the sun rise over the frozen trees. For a brief moment, everything felt perfect. 2 broken lives finding warmth in a world that had none. But far beyond the forest, lights moved in the sky, the faint shimmer of alien patrols sweeping through the clouds. Lyraya saw them first. Her smile faded. They're coming, she whispered. Ethan followed her gaze, jaw tightening. Then we'll be ready. The morning light was soft and pale over the white forest. Smoke rose from the cabin's chimney, curling into the frozen air. It looked peaceful, too peaceful for what was coming. Ethan Cross stood on the porch, sharpening his knife out of habit, his breath forming clouds. He didn't know what to expect, but he could see worry in Laria's eyes. She was quiet that morning, quieter than usual. Her gaze stayed fixed on the distant hills where faint metallic glints shone beneath the clouds. "They're searching this area," she said softly. "The patrol will find us soon." Ethan nodded slowly. "Then we make them see the truth." Laria shook her head. "They won't listen. They see only your kind's flag and they remember the fires." He sighed. "Then they'll have to see something else." She looked at him, confused. "What do you mean?" He smiled faintly. "Let's give them something worth remembering." Preparing the cabin all day, Ethan worked with quiet purpose. He took out old scraps from his ship's wreck, plates of metal, fragments of wiring, burnt circuit boards, and began building something outside. Laria helped, though she didn't understand at first. She gathered colored stones from the frozen river and placed them where he pointed. Together they formed patterns on the outer wall of the cabin. Circles, lines, marks that represented both human and Varan symbols. By sunset, their cabin had changed. It wasn't just wood and metal anymore. It looked like something new, something shared. When the wind moved, the light hit the metallic panels and reflected the colors of both their worlds. Earth's dull copper and Varan's silver blue. "It's not much," Ethan said, wiping sweat from his brow. "But it's us." Laria touched the carvings with trembling fingers. "It's beautiful," she whispered. For the first time in years, she felt like she belonged somewhere again. The first light in the sky that night, the wind carried a strange hum, faint, mechanical, rhythmic. Laria's body tensed instantly. "They're near," she said, her voice low. "They use scanners to read heat signatures. They'll detect your fire." Ethan stared into the flames. "Then I'll go outside. Let them see me first." She caught his arm. "No, they will shoot on sight." He met her gaze calmly. "If I hide, they'll think we're guilty. If I stand, maybe they'll see I'm not their enemy." Laria's throat tightened. "Humans always think courage saves them." He smiled sadly. "It's not courage. It's the only thing I have left." The arrival by dawn, the sound of engines filled the air. Through the fog, 3 Varan patrol skimmers appeared, silver crafts hovering above the snow. Their lights swept across the forest until they found the cabin. Ethan stood outside, hands raised, unarmed. Laria stepped out behind him, her cloak drawn tight, her heart pounding. The skimmers landed. Soldiers stepped out, tall, armored, their visors reflecting the light. The lead officer, Commander Thalen, lifted his plasma rifle. "Human," he shouted in Varan tongue. "Step away from her." Ethan didn't move. "I mean no harm," he said slowly. His voice shook a little, but his eyes stayed steady. Thalen turned his rifle toward Laria. "You are violating contact law." "You were warned, Laria of Varan. Why protect him?" Laria's chest rose and fell. Her voice trembled, but she didn't step back. "Because he's not what you think. He built no weapon. He fights no war. He only builds, and I watched him build life again." Thalen's eyes narrowed. "You pity him?" "No," she said firmly. "I love what he represents." The soldiers looked at each other, uncertain. Ethan stepped forward slightly. "You think humans destroy everything? Maybe that's true. But look around. This place, this home, it's proof we can make something better." He gestured to the cabin. The morning sun lit up the wall they had built, the combined symbols of both worlds glowing faintly in the light. For a long moment, no one spoke. The forest held its breath. The standoff Thalen's face hardened. "You speak well, human. But one home does not erase the graves of 1,000. Ethan nodded. "Maybe not. But it's a start." The commander raised his rifle again. "We cannot allow this violation." Laria moved instantly, stepping in front of Ethan. "Then you'll have to go through me." Thalen hesitated. He knew her name. A respected biologist before the war, a widow after it. She had lost everything to human fire. Now she stood shielding one of them. He lowered the weapon slightly. "You would defy your own kind for him?" Her voice was quiet but sure. "No, I defy hate for him." Behind her, Ethan's heart pounded. He wanted to speak, but he knew her words meant more than anything he could say. For the first time in his life, he understood something. Sometimes humanity isn't about being human. It's about what you choose to protect, the breaking point. The second-in-command, impatient, shouted, "This is madness! He's a trespasser!" Thalen hesitated. The silence stretched. The snow creaked under his boots. Then, he holstered his rifle. "Enough blood has been spilled," he said finally. "If this human means no harm, he may live. But he cannot stay here. The law forbids it." Ethan nodded slowly. "Then I'll leave." Lariah turned sharply. "No!" He placed a hand on her shoulder. "It's okay. If I go, they won't punish you." Her eyes filled with light, a shimmer of tears that glowed faintly in the dawn. "You'll die out there," he smiled weakly. "I didn't live before this, Lariah. You gave me a reason to." The soldiers began preparing their skimmers. Lariah looked at Thalen. "Please, let him stay until the storm season ends. He will not survive the wastelands." Thalen studied her, then nodded once. "One season. Then he goes." And just like that, they were gone. The engines faded into the clouds. The days that followed, winter deepened. The forest became silent again. Ethan stayed inside most days, repairing the cabin, gathering food, and talking with Lariah for hours by the fire. They told stories of Earth's oceans and Varen's glowing skies. He showed her how to play an old harmonica. She taught him how her people sang to plants to make them grow. The nights grew warmer, the silences shorter. The space between them disappeared. One evening, Lariah said softly, "You'll leave when the season ends." Ethan looked at her for a long time. "Not if you ask me to stay." She smiled sadly. "Then I'll never ask." The farewell that never happened. When spring came, the snows began to melt. Streams flowed again. The cabin stood tall, the symbols on its walls now weathered but bright. Ethan packed his few things, his knife, a small data pad, and a carving of 2 figures beneath a tree. Lariah watched silently. "I could come with you," she said. He shook his head. "Your world needs you, mine doesn't exist anymore." Tears welled in her eyes. "Then who do you belong to?" He smiled softly. "To this place. To what we built." Before she could reply, a sound echoed through the valley. Engines again. But this time it wasn't a patrol. It was a human rescue ship. Ethan froze. He hadn't expected that signal to ever reach anyone. The choice. The ship landed nearby, kicking up a storm of dust and snow. 2 human officers approached. "Pilot Cross?" One shouted. "We thought you were dead." Ethan looked back at Lariah. Her eyes widened. "Your people," he nodded. "Yeah, my people." The officer gestured to the ship. "We're taking you home. Let's go." He looked at the cabin, at the carvings, the shared colors, the warmth that had made this frozen world feel alive. Then he looked at Lariah. She stepped closer, voice trembling. "You must go. If you stay, they'll call you a traitor." He smiled faintly. "Home isn't where I'm from anymore." The officer frowned. "Cross, are you refusing rescue?" Ethan nodded slowly. "Not refusing, just choosing." The men hesitated, then finally turned back toward the ship. "You'll die here," one said over his shoulder. Ethan watched as the ship lifted into the sky, growing smaller until it vanished. The forest fell silent again. The home of 2 worlds years passed. The cabin became something more than a shelter. It became a place of peace. Human explorers who later visited Varen 3 found the strange wooden structure still standing, wrapped in vines that glowed blue under the alien sky. Inside were carvings, humans and Varens side by side, working, building, laughing, and above the door, written in 2 languages, were the words, "Home is not found. It is built log by log." No one ever found Ethan Cross or Lariah again. Some said they left together. Others said they became part of the forest itself, 2 souls bound in the silence they once shared. But those who stood before the cabin always felt it, a quiet warmth, an invisible echo of their story. And somewhere, in the eternal stillness of Varen's winds, a soft voice seemed to whisper, "You don't have to watch from the woods anymore.